we'll start with our 9 o'clock, a little late, meeting with the Forest Service, Erin and Carol. And we got some new MOUs or something and action items.
Or I think that's later on, maybe
Okay.
on the agenda, but we figured we'd come and get our money's worth, I guess.
Okay, Nate, you want to lead off with something that you want to cover now?
No, I'll let you guys go. They found me a slot on the agenda after, right?
Yeah,
So
10:15.
we didn't know if we needed to
Oh, I
somehow
see,
slide
yeah.
in here.
Okay, well, you can add in as, so Erin, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Whichever. Why don't you kick off and then I can tag in.
Chug in,
Yeah.
okay. Well, since I saw you last, I attended an IFG meeting in St. Regis there at the Community Center, and it was very well attended. They probably had close to 200 people in attendance, and had some of their head people from their company there that gave a nice presentation on a little bit of their vision of the woods products industry. And I didn't get to stay for the whole day of it, but found it very interesting, and they're an innovative company, and certainly want to work with the communities and the collaborative groups and that sort of thing. So very interesting. I spent 3 days going to national minerals training in San Antonio, learning some of the rules and regulations that we have to work with, and they covered the whole gamut of minerals administration, from coal, oil and gas, on down to the locatable minerals that we have on this district. And I expect this summer that we will have some people that have claims up on this in Cedar Creek and Lost Creek that will be wanting to do some continued exploration, and probably more advanced exploration than what they've been doing in the past up in that drainage. And of course, that's a bull trout watershed, so we'll be working closely with those folks. But I think the claimants that I've heard from so far, they're good operators. They understand the minerals regulations, and so I'm thinking that we'll be fine. I can say on the timber positions that we've been talking about, Erin and I, the hiring panels are getting through those, and we will be finishing up getting those positions filled here very shortly. So
Yeah, for the one that would be sitting at either 9 Mile, Missoula, or Sealy, the GS7 pre-sale forester, kind of the small sale. We made a selection and an offer was made. Now we're just clearing the HR, so we're hoping we get that notification so we can send it out any day now. So,
Whose spot was that before?
his name was Josh Engert. He was sitting in Missoula. Yeah.
And the hiring panel filling behind Eddie Bringenberg, who had been setting on our district and serving the West Zone, they have went through their applicants, have done their interviews, and will be making their recommendation to Sarah Mabin, and then we'll go through HR. So the heavy lifting has been done, and we'll be getting that finalized up here pretty quick. With the selection of the recon forester, that was the first position that we did. Mike Mueller, who is a silviculturist on the Plains district, was selected for that, and we all think he'll just be a great candidate in that position, but at the same time, then it opened up and left us a hole in silviculture. So actually on the West Zone, especially on the Plains district for silviculture, with Mike transitioning into a new position, there's another person over there, Elliot Meyer, who has taken a new job on another forest, and we have a retirement coming over at the end of the year. So silviculture over on Plains is going to be hurting for a little bit, and we're going to have to look at some details and some ways to fill those gaps until we can get those positions filled back up.
What was he hired for? What position?
Mike Mueller, he's gonna be a recon forester.
Right.
And that was a position, for some of you that know, Ron Mason, that lives down in the East End. When Ron retired, we didn't fill, the forest elected not to fill that position. And as we have ramped back up with some timber production, Wanda just can't do her job and get out on the ground and do some of the recon that needs to be done. So we're excited about that. Moving on to Sunrise Salvage, I think you've all seen, and I forgot to bring you a hard copy, but the EA is out. We're really pleased with that, and I think Pat Partica did a tremendous job of getting that document, taking the specialist reports and writing that and getting it out ahead of schedule. And so public comment, we have a 30-day public comment period. And again, just remember, we're having a public meeting. Erin and I are hosting on May 2nd at 6:30 at the conference room at Superior Ranger District. So anybody and everybody is welcome for that. A little bit more, anything on mushrooms you want to talk about, Erin?
Well, we still haven't gotten a decision from the regional forester on if we're gonna do commercial or not. It's looking like we probably still will in Sunrise, like we've been saying kind of all along, but since they lumped all the fire salvage into one kind of CE and one decision, I think there's just some discussion that needs to happen and some decisions that need to be made on like Range Ridge, for example. There's some hangups with like that being in grizzly bear habitat and whether that's gonna force us to do kind of a formal consultation with Fish and Wildlife. But that being said, I brought some flyers or brochures that we came out with that speak to incidental personal use and then personal use with charge, because we did decide to kind of break them up a little bit differently. So this will be consistent all across the region, not just on Sunrise. And incidental use doesn't require a permit. You can get a free permit, which allows folks to pick up to 5 gallons per day and up to 20 gallons total, which seems like a ton of mushrooms to me. And then the charge personal use, you pick up to 5 at a time, but then depending on how much you want to pay, $20 for 20 gallons total, or maximum of $300 for 300 gallons per season. So, yeah.
A lot of mushrooms.
It's a lot of mushrooms.
The only other thing, we were looking at using one loop of Quartz Flat Campground for a designated camp area for people that need to find a place to camp that come in. And I was debating on, do we charge those people the regular camp fee or do we not? And the regional office said that I had the latitude to make that call one way or the other. And in talking to people at the region and to Heather Berman, our local rec staff person here, I made the decision that we would not charge for the mushroom people to be there. And I know there was a little bit of pushback maybe from a few people in the community saying, well, if I have to go there and camp, I have to pay $10 a night, but you're going to allow people wanting to pick mushrooms camp for free. And the reason for my decision in doing that is I'm afraid if I charge, then it's going to push them out of there and they're going to be more like to go up the bottom of Sunrise or wanting to encroach on possibly private property. And so I think if we provide a free place for them to camp where we have garbage and sanitation, in the long run, it may avoid a lot of cleanup somewhere else and some confrontation with them wanting to sit down on private ground. So that's the reason for my decision that we will not charge. And so we do have a good place for them to camp, and we'll be encouraging people that need to camp to camp there. We have I just got informed of this, Alberton Community Group. Last year, Erin and I met in Alberton, and there was interest with a group there that had wanting school kids to get some school programs into planting and just following the regrowth of the area after the fire. And they're going to be, next Friday, they're going to come and meet with Harley Annabali. She's kind of the contact with that group, and just trying to set up kind of what the program might be for, and what grade levels might participate. And so don't know too much about that, but then change anything else on Sunrise that you can think of, Erin?
Other than maybe some of the road work we're planning, I don't know, maybe that's some good chunk stuff that you're gonna talk about, but
Good.
wasn't defer to you.
Yeah, so maybe Dave could talk just a little bit about that end of it,
Where
while we're on
it was
Sunrise.
Yeah, well, Jared and Mike probably have been kind of the primary leads on putting packages together and just kind of sorting out what we want to tie to the salvage sales and have the sales carried. As you know, we got a pretty good chunk, better than probably any other fire did as far as immediate action last fall on Sunrise. And so we did decide to kind of, I don't know, I guess, enhance what we had done last fall and go in there and tune it back up. So a lot of those roads that we were able to work on last fall, you know, they didn't have a lot of time to set up and stuff with the late conditions and stuff. So Jared and Mike put a pretty nice package together to kind of deal with a lot of the mainline roads and essentially have those basically out of the way so the sale doesn't have to kind of carry the burden of all those miles that can rack up on the packages and stuff like that. So the sale packages are largely focused on the little locals and stuff that go into the units. And so, I don't know, within the next week, we'll have an awarded contract to deal with a lot of the mainline roads. It's kind of a blend of Bear and some of the disaster funding that we received. And so I think we'll end up with some nice roads out there, and obviously that'll help the sale feasibility and should be nice for the logging so that they can there'll be areas where they can log immediately without any road work.
Were they mainly needing culvert work, or was it just that alder brush growing up in the way, or what was the?
You know, last year we put a lot of like drainage into the roads, some extra dips, looked for places where we thought things could run off the hillside and make sure we have it, you know, dip down the road in case so it doesn't run down the road for a mile and take out. So we were looking at a lot of that stuff, making sure all the culverts were opened up. We did not have much time to put new culverts in. So there's a few pretty significant ones, I guess, not as significant.
Usually they just need like a good cleaning out, right, when the rocks fall in and the dirt.
Yeah, we see a lot of catch basins and stuff just sloughing in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a few that we had to actually replace or upsize, and those were identified. And of course, we got some of the ones that we were most concerned about last fall through our agreement that we did on the bottom of Sunrise. So, I mean, that really deals with the main part of the road work associated with Sunrise. Is there anything specific that you want to mention regarding the packages that you're putting together, whether it be Bear or timber sale ones?
So not really, it's going to be pretty basic. I know there's going to be a lot of streams that come down in random places that we've never been before. So that's kind of more of the stuff that we might tackle too. So there might be, I mean, even though it's a culvert here and there and kind of sprucing up the road and making it, I guess, storm-proof, there's going to be some stuff that we will anticipate that we're going to have to fix as well. So I anticipate that as well.
They do give us money to deal with that, though. I call it storm damage response or something like that. So we're kind of prepared for that, other than the fact that sometimes our AQM process, our contracting process, can be challenging on the timelines that we want them to execute stuff. But we'll be creative. We'll respond.
When the mudslides come?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's what we've been kind of saying all across the forest for sure, especially like Lobo Peak and Rice Ridge that have like the huge areas of severe burn effects, that it's not a matter of like if, it's when.
Especially with all the snowpack we have this year.
Yeah.
Still a lot of Lolo peaked at, Lolo passed those, what, 158% or something, the normal.
I think they're still 11 feet up.
So will you do any of the brushing? I mean, I know that most of it burned, but there's probably some of them roads that,
Yeah, that's, I
Probably
think we got some clearing and all kinds of different stuff. It's the usual fix-up that's pretty all-encompassing. So we've got a pretty good eye on that. One that both Carol and Erin identified kind of in their great minds were thinking alike, as the making sure that the signing and the gates and all those different things that we maybe have the opportunity to address that we normally don't, just because it falls so low.
Mhm.
So we had identified quite a few things. Gates, we tend to, because they're kind of a pain, so that's something that we usually do catch and have a decent plan for dealing with gates. But signing and different things that we normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do, we need to probably go out and make a run at making sure we have what we want. And Willie, you know more about that. Willie Peck from the coalition
Right,
had offered to do some help.
Yeah, he said, he would be willing to help inventory what's been damaged, burned, missing, that sort of thing as well. And maybe he could take a piece of it or something.
Yeah, so I think that the main stuff, the gates that are just obviously on roads that we're gonna use for the sale and we need to be actually functioning and working good, we took care of that. But it's the stuff that maybe when we were going really fast, we didn't catch, so we'll need to do that inventory. And Jared's good at that, and Mike knows all those roads, so they'll get out and do that, and then we'll have to put some kind of package together or something and contract that.
so there was some talk of that little cut across road between the upper St. Pat's Road and the Quartz Creek Road, of closing that off. Is that
one of the ones that we've talked about, or we have the plans for fixing back up? So the 3 roads that we temporarily closed for the recommendation of Bear, so part of this is they put together a road package to fix up some of those, and then the hazard tree removal was part of those, the reason it was closed. So we've identified funding through that emergency, and I think it'll go through, to fund our folks to get out there. And they've already started taking a look about removing all those hazard trees before we even do the road work, so that we can open them up. as soon
well, I
as
just
it's
want
done.
to make sure that
Yeah.
there was talk about closing that little short road off. and-
Yeah, all the closures out there were intended to be temporary until we could
Okay.
fix the hazards.
Is that,
The
One that
other
goes over
two-
to Whiskey Gulch.
yeah,
Yeah.
that little one that goes from the Whiskey, their Tombstone Pass, there up to the,
Yeah, there was a short time period where there was a little confusion. I was told by several resource advisors that it's real hazardous through there. And so we kind of put that in our Bear plan. I didn't necessarily, I just said, yeah, we'll make sure we have the funding we need to put administrative closures and deal with it. And then once we had the time to kind of run through, it's like, yeah, it's probably maybe okay just to have a temporary closure on it.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 roads, they were seasonal closures anyway, so we really didn't put anybody out anything. So if we can deal with those pretty quick, like, there will be
Yeah.
really no impact to anybody.
it's just kind of a nice little road. If there's a tree across going
Yeah.
down Whiskey Gulch, you can ease access getting out the other way. so.
And then a couple other things on Sunrise is, Laura, you might remember last year when we were talking at some of the fire meetings, there was an area where they were trying to skid some of the logs to get them decked up, and there was an area up off of West Side Trout that was pretty steep, and one of the skidders it started to make a run on them, and they determined it was too steep and hazardous to complete that skidding where they could get the logs hauled out of there. And anyway, some of the logs ended up, or I think that's the same place, but we have discovered that there's about 3 loads of logs decked up through some of these switchbacks. And Nate, you might be familiar, but it's up there. And it's on, the decks are about, Mike Frawley and Josh Stroot went up there about a week and a half ago. And they estimated about 3 loads of logs. And those decks are on private ground. And it might be a little bit of it on Forest Service, but it's right close. And
Is that on Johnson Brothers property?
no, I don't have the name. They looked up, I don't know, maybe, I might have to check with Tim, but it's, there's a new landowner, and it looked like they've acquired the property fairly recently. And
That it used to be Johnson Brothers there above the old mill there?
I think so. Here's kind of the, where it was, and so that road going up there, Robin Germain, our realty person, I had her do a search, and she finds that there was a road permit issued back in '67 for that parcel at one time must have belonged to Diamond. And that's when the permit was issued. There was a special use permit issued to Diamond International Corporation back in '67, so I'm assuming they may have built that road. And so we've got some things to do with.
Because I think it was Johnson Brothers logged that, you know, and then they must have sold
Yeah,
it.
so we got some cleanup to do with Patrick Bridegam, a realty person in Missoula, and so I'm trying to track down a phone number for those people or an address, and we'll have to,
Tim,
Erin and I will have to draft a letter or a phone call and talk to them. We're not sure. A couple of the fire folks have been up there, and to move those decks over on Forest Service, of course, you'd have to get a piece of equipment up there, and there's really not a good way to get that wood down because they believe those switchbacks are too tight to get a log truck up or down. I really don't know what we're gonna do there for sure. We're still working on it, but
Would you like permission to leave the logs there?
that would be ideal, is if the landowners would say,
then maybe the landowner can
do
sell
whatever
it for
with it.
firewood or something.
Yeah.
Because you could get in there
Yeah,
with pickups.
With pickups, yeah.
I'm sure that, I talked to him, but
Okay, so that would be the simple solution, and because our folks looked at, if we had to get up there and either get a skidder or something up there and drag that back onto Forest Service, and I'm not sure just exactly in how we missed that of getting it over on private, but it is our error, and so we gotta clean it up.
Sunrise is the gift that just keeps giving.
Yeah. And then just another thing with some of the disaster funding that we're hoping that we're gonna get is to repair, remember I did make a commitment for the stock driveways that we would get those back into useful condition, and so they were heavily impacted by the fire, and we have put in for, and Heather has been working with Wanda, so we put in for money to look at probably Wanda getting a piece of equipment up there and pulling some of that material that was in there to block off ATVs and whatnot, because there's just a lot of timber that's been piled in there, and trying to get a trail corridor. And what we'd like to do, instead of just going right straight up the ridge where the dozer line went, is there's still some original pieces of the old stock driveway trail in there. And so we're looking at probably Liz Gupton, who has done a lot of trail work in her career, going up and reconning that and working up a design, a survey and design of that trail, of how we can try to weave that back in, pick up those old pieces of original trail travel way, and get that back to pretty much like it would have been, and at least allow stock and hiking. So it may take us a couple years to do that, but we'll be doing hopefully survey and design on that this year, and also looking at the Sunrise stock driveway, and talking to Heather Berman, maybe putting up a nice interpretive sign at the trailheads of those, because not a lot of people today that would use those trails recognize the history of those stock driveways. So that's the other thing. I
So
want-
you'll just make it wide enough for, I mean, so ATVs aren't going up and down.
Yeah, and
right?
that's gonna be kind of tough because that is, I mean, it's wide open and then rehabbing the big landing up there that was used, so quite a bit of work's gonna be required there. So not exactly sure just how, but we're thinking of it. Also, met this week with Steve Young called and had a meeting. Jason was there looking at the St. Regis Park, the pond there, and they received a $15,000 Fish, Wildlife, and Parks grant, which John Hansen from the Forest Service helped Lad Notech put together. And the Forest Service has put in $5,000 to contribute toward that. And very kind of you folks, Jason came to the table and announced $5,500 in kind from Mineral County in time and equipment. And that pond is 2 to 4 feet deep, according to Lad Notech. And in order to sustain fish, it needs to be 12 to 14 feet deep in places. So the plan is to use that money is to take some areas in there and get an excavator to excavate out and make some 12 to 14 feet deep spots. So not the whole pond, because it's, I think, what, 0.84 acres is what he
Yeah,
said.
it's a big pond.
It's a big pond, and so taking areas that are most accessible and excavating out to that depth so fish have a place that they can have colder water and probably overwinter. And then looking at, part of this money would go to purchasing and installing a couple docks that would be kind of, and out of they're expensive. I think Lad said about $6,000 for a dock out of that material that's,
Tracks.
yeah, it's, lasts forever. And so then your places where you excavate the 12 to 14 feet deep would be in the vicinity of where you put the dock, so kids could cast off of the dock, and that's where the fish would probably likely pool up. So looking at the NEPA on that should be really simple. The state's gonna do the NEPA on it, and we'll do some small NEPA for the portion. And about half of that pond is on national forest, half is on park ground there.
I'm assuming they're on these.
The other bigger issue is having to dewater that pond in order to excavate. And so in order to dewater that, where do you put that? And we think there's some cottonwood areas where the St. Regis just kind of naturally backs up. So we'd be pumping it into there, and Lad Notech seems to be fine with doing that. He helped suggest that, but that would be probably another pretty good project, is just getting that dewatered. We went through here at our NEPA meeting this week, Plains and Superior, since we share staffs, our 5-year program of work. And for the Superior District, our #1 priority after salvage is to get back onto Red Bull and continue. We have quite a few of, most of the staff still has some work that they've got to do out there this summer, and some have a lot of work. Moving on to fire, today we're going to be doing some burning, about a 200-acre spot down on the cutoff in the Patrick Creek vicinity. That's burning some logging slash that was logged a couple years ago. And just so you know, Plains Thompson Falls is also looking at burning over there out of Thompson Falls, some game range, what they call game range, about 600 to 800 acres. Really not near private. They've got snow at the top, but it'll be a helitorch operation. And we'll also have a helicopter doing some lighting there in Patrick Creek. Recreation, our folks are getting busy. We're just getting our crews on, trying to get campgrounds put together, hazard trees down. And timber crew has been busy working up in Sunrise and making good progress is what they've told me. So I have attended, we've had, Tim has been putting on the wildfire protection plan meetings throughout the county, and we've had a fire person attend all of those in 9 Mile. I think Dewey and Jeff participated at Alberton. I've attended two, one last night and the one here in Superior. And Teo was at St. Regis, and I believe of all of them, Tim, St. Regis sounded like it had the most people that participated.
St. Regis probably the most, but, and Alberton was pretty good.
Yeah, Alberton was good attendance. And we had about 10 last night at DeBorgia. So some good questions asked at the ones that I've attended. That's all I have, Erin, if you have some other things.
Just a couple other quick things. So we're burning today probably too, but ours is just going to be on the admin site, burning cattails out of the pastures. So pretty, hopefully low complexity on that one. Maybe looking at burning this weekend, but that would be up above Frenchtown. Stuff in South Fork Fish is still just not quite dry enough yet. Other things with Fish Creek area, so we are looking at doing some reforestation out there, pretty close to Clearwater Crossing this spring, and we actually have the National Forest Foundation, NFF, is going to be out there doing some filming for it too, to try to do like kind of a public education awareness deal on what reforestation is. So that should hopefully happen in May/June.
Well, will that entail like planting new trees? Or?
Yep. Yeah, using some stock that came out of Coeur d'Alene Nursery. So that's kind of that 2-year process. Feels like it's been a lot longer since West Fork Fish. But, so they'll get going on that. I'm not sure exactly where the polygons are for it, but the ones that are fairly close to access, like I mentioned, right kind of around Clearwater Crossing. And then our folks are still working on the bunkhouse. I still need to talk to you guys about doing a field visit out there, maybe in May, I'm thinking, or maybe June. And Nate and I were just talking yesterday about getting with you guys to do a blading up to West Fork Fish turnoff, since I hear it's pretty terrible out there right now. And then working with you guys on the Schedule A to do a bigger cleanup. And we are still set for what the Fish Creek Milepost 14 reroute. Got some permits, I guess, from DNRC, what you call it. And still set to start probably in July, maybe June. Still kind of pushing that. It could be close up to 3 weeks, that worst case scenario. But hopefully it'll be less than that. And we're going to work on, 9 Mile's going to tackle kind of the signage for it. So working with engineering to make sure we're doing what makes sense. But probably put some signs out there starting in May, just as a heads up, kind of like at the beginning of Fish Creek and then on the Highway 12 side. And then when we get closer, necking it in so that people are aware and can start planning for that. And then Iowa State, their French conservation camp at used to be Hole in the Wall. We should be having a meeting with them, I think in May, to see what their itinerary is for this spring or this summer. Last year was their first year, so I think they're kind of just trying to figure out everything they want to do. They're pretty excited about the opportunities out there. And then we did have a monitoring request from Research. I'm trying to remember that gal's name. So she's heading up some reforestation plot assessments across, I think across the region, but she tagged Sunrise, Little Peak, and I think Rice Ridge for them too. And I'm kind of pushing back because she originally had some plots within our salvage unit, so we said we're not going to protect those. But it's just, there's going to be so much going on there this spring that I'd rather not have.
I saw your emails and I didn't have any more to contribute,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I thought you were
Yeah,
right on.
just wanted to put it out that there's some folks interested in that too, but we'll probably defer them. And then I did get a notice of intent to do some prospecting at Meadow Creek, starting, I think he wanted to do it starting this week, but we'll see. He's been up there before, Gerald Johnson's the name. Same scope of activities, but I just wanted to make sure our minerals folk, well, all one of them, Scott Gerwe is in the loop on it, so he's keeping an eye, making sure what he's doing is within the scope of what we agreed to, and letting him know that we're going to be really busy in that area with traffic for salvage, bear, post-fire, mushrooms, everything else. So he might not want to actually hang out there for too long. And then we did talk about wanting to do that MOU with you guys for the planning shop stuff. And we finally got back from, or heard back from Tracy Nimblos and Deanna Crawford. And they thought, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around this a little bit, they thought an MOU wasn't actually what we needed, kind of like what you had with your sheriff's department, that we really just need to be on the same page. And I was thinking include something in our in-briefing packets so that when we bring a team in, they understand what they can and cannot request from you guys, and formalize it in some other way other than an MOU. Because I guess the MOU is more because they have money up front for the sheriff's department that has to be in agreement before the season. So still trying to kind of figure that out, because the whole intent is to make sure that we have a mechanism to pay you guys back for the work that we're asking you guys to do. So we haven't had a chance to sit down with those two and kind of hash it out. It's just been a couple emails back and forth. And I know we've been talking about this for months, but I think if nothing else, then we can have some sort of formal documentation and just call it, a letter to the file or whatever on what we can and can't do, so that we have that talking point with the teams.
Here's a little, I brought the email over, and it says, this is from Tracy Nemlos, and she's the incident business coordinator for the region. And she says, Carol and Erin, I don't recall all the background, but we should be able to procure services from the planning office without having a preseason agreement in place. We have done that with the Mineral County Road Department. And she said we should be able to either pay with a credit card or execute an agreement at the time the services are requested. In the future, we need to ensure that neither incident management teams or local unit personnel are requesting services without going through AQM, that's acquisition management, and that should prevent this situation from happening again. And so, as Erin mentioned, if we have teams that come in, that will be probably part of both of our briefing packages, that you don't just go to the planning office and to Tim and start wanting maps and whatnot until we get the S number and whatnot, and get the procurement so that we can pay for the time.
And had I known that, when Jason put in the approach there, the guy gave me this S number, and he says, use that number. And if I had thought, I'd have given it to Tim, and he could have,
Yeah, same kind of process.
just use that same number. And
What stage did the S number come out? At what stage of the fire did the S number?
that was like
Early
when
on,
they were
early
putting
on.
in the fire camp there at
I know,
Wheeler.
but it was the two teams before that getting up to the type 1 team, those are the ones that
No, this was the first team that came in.
Type 2 team.
we met up at the school.
That's where the initial SCP was, yes. And so what we're talking about is, so that the very first team that
So
comes
if
in
you cover that,
understands.
that's all I'm saying. I mean,
Yep.
I understand fire camps and the ICs and all of that, yeah, we can do that, but the maps and what we really wanted quick was when we were getting first at the school.
So I think, and Tim, Erin and I would ask you if you could alert us if somebody comes, because, we'll address that when we have the in-briefings and the packets to the incident management teams. But if you would alert either Erin or I, respectively, if you're getting that, so we can get right on it quickly and make sure that we get that through the either S numbers or however we need to, so that you do get compensated.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. It's just like, don't do anything without an S number. And that's, yeah, it's tricky.
I mean, at 9 o'clock on Saturday, you're not gonna get an S number.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
I guess what you need to say is that until it's cleared, because if you get it, and then we can't go back through procurement, so.
If there was one day that I didn't get compensated for and I worked on it another 8 days, that's irrelevant. I gotta do my job. I mean, if I'm looking up houses and addresses and people and stuff, it's gonna get done.
But if you could alert us
Yeah,
as
no,
quick
I-
as you
I
can,
agree with that.
and then we can make sure that we get it plugged in, and so that we're not, after the fire is over, then trying to clean this back up.
The other thing we're gonna be more careful for in the office is because not only did I get requests, but Candace did too, but it's like who, when, what. I mean, by the end, we were putting all of that down. and did that.
Yeah.
We should have started that.
Because there's no reason that you shouldn't be paid for the materials and paid for your time as well.
And I think that was pretty much it for me. Our recreation shop is pretty much focused right now on stock. The May 1st deadline's coming up for folks to come pick up their stock, so we just ran them all through the spring vaccinations and clubbing. And then and getting the ranch actually ready now too for the hay operations. And then we'll transition over when we get our seasonals into more of the trails work and whatnot too. So tied in our program of work with the hospital hikes schedule too, so that we've got things cleared out before we've got a bunch of people going out. And that is a robust schedule. That's impressive.
Wow.
So I think that's it for me.
All right.
Do you have anything on roads, Jared, that we're picking up as far as any damage thus far? Anything that you found?
Also wonder with Dry Creek. So that's one of the roads that we were gonna throw on a project agreement this year. Is we'll wait for that thing to actually be done with its, whatever it's doing every year, and fix that thing up.
It's out there where it's wanting to.
Yeah, I haven't quite seen it myself, but we'll have to go out there and do a site visit with Jason here pretty soon.
I think last time we were here, you had some pictures of
Yeah,
it that you
yeah.
showed us.
Dry Creek?
Yeah.
It always dips a little bit. Last year was, really bad. Probably the worst I've seen it, so.
But you gotta see it now, just believe all the water that's coming off the hillside.
Oh, I
In
can.
August, and you don't get the full perspective.
Right.
Maybe you could also talk about the Thompson Peak Road, since that's, goes to a major comp site that involves sheriff's office, highway patrol, and the other cell users, whatnot.
Okay, so Thompson Peak, here you can have this, Jason. It'll be another project agreement that we plan on doing. The geotechnical engineer that we had working on it actually just got back to me yesterday and said that any repair that we do to that, it's not gonna make much of a difference. Because all that water that's in that mountain is spitting out right there. And as deep as we go with the repair, it's not gonna catch it. So it's always gonna empty right there. So that reroute that we have right there is basically the road going up the McIntyre pit. Right before it hits that switchback, we're just gonna gouge our way down and hit that drop for the creek right there. And so that's that design right there. And she even said that's gonna at least be our best option. So that'd be a project to do this spring, hopefully. And to decommission the rest of that road's gonna be, I don't know yet, but we're gonna put something in there. We're gonna have some hydro and some other specialists chime in on what we need to do there. So that's the original plan, I guess, for right now. It's not quite designed yet, but
Well, it makes sense if you've been up there. I mean, it does make sense to cut across there. I know we talked about it the other day, same thing. So,
Yep, just
good
basic.
project, I think.
yeah, just cut and fill basic, 6% at the most in one area, and cap it with the gravel we have up the hill. So it'll make it pretty easy.
How much
Yeah.
new construction, about what would be the length of it in there, Jared?
What's a safer station to station? It's not all quite signed yet, but I don't know, a couple 100 feet, 300 feet, so football field.
That's not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Maintenance.
Why did they do away with the original road, going up the draw and coming up? But
I don't know, Lauren.
was it just because the road was in the draw, or, I mean, kind of,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I drove that old road.
Oh, yeah.
Many times, but I don't remember
Yeah.
the reasoning for
Is that out of the
taking it
pit?
out of there.
no, it's, well, yeah, well, the.
Go up to the pit?
The,
And then go up the draw?
yeah,
Oh.
the original road went right up the draw and then came out, I don't know, partway up there, so.
Oh. I was never on that.
Well, kind of backing up just a little bit, obviously, a year ago, we had a lot of damage out there because
Yes,
of the
left
rain on
off.
snow event that happened, and basically, I was just enough familiar with the ERFO requirements to be kind of dangerous, and it's basically taken a year to get through the process, and it's still not 100%, but I think that's the note that you guys received. I don't even know where it originated from, but it kind of said something about Senator Daines approving the.
Oh, the $350,000?
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because the one caption said for emergency relief on federally owned roads, which is what ERFO stands
Right.
for. So
Verse-
I'm assuming they're one and the same. It did word it as a grant, which it is not a grant at all.
But it came through a news release from Daines' office.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So anyways, we identified several sites, and I just want to be clear that there's a lot of different rules to it, and it was hard to kind of navigate, because when you go through the process, they want every single site, and a site is like one spot, and if it's not more than $5,000 or something, then it doesn't count, and they won't approve it, and you just go through this long process, and so some that I listed didn't get approved and some did, but at the end of the day, I think it's gonna give us some flexibility, and certainly these sites,
Right.
we'll be able to figure out how to get them, and we'll go back and have an opportunity to fix some of this stuff. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate it's a year later, and,
Yeah,
but it's better than nothing.
yeah, it'd be nice if, like, towards the top, just under the lookout there, the road's really kind of slept in there. It's just barely wide enough to get a rig through close to the top there, so it'd be
Okay.
nice to go in and widen that out a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't know about that, but we might as well deal with
Yeah,
whatever we
just-
can while we're there.
Yeah,
And especially where that, I mean, it does get a lot of use from the
Yeah.
ComSite people,
Mhm.
and then the top story is a popular cabin rental.
right, yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
People
where it's a
with, you know,
rental.
mostly cars,
Mhm.
some pickups or something. So that's all that I have, unless,
No, Erin mentioned a little bit, we are gonna, run Kelly out to do some grading on the Fish Creek Road to get the initial, potholes cut out of it, just so people can get up and down the road, but that will be, we do have our agreement in place from last year, it's a 5-year agreement, but I just wanna run it by you that we can go forward with another maintenance contract again this year, and hoping to fast track that into the paper so that we can get out there with more of the comprehensive.
Do you have, like, an ad written up that we can?
Yep, I
Good.
emailed that, and,
Perfect.
they edit it, make sure it fits your timeframes for bid opening, and,
Yeah, I think it's, my part's done. She could probably put it in the, send it over today and have it in by next Wednesday.
right. So then, yeah, hopefully that'll put more of an area, kind of a comprehensive one, but at least, the good thing about doing it this way too is that the potholes get so deep that, you know, you gotta get them at least cut out to where they're draining, and get some traffic on them for a little bit, so that when you actually do the maintenance, it just doesn't, waste it in the first week with the potholes coming back, so you almost have to get it graded twice, and, that's what this will accomplish. But anyways, we'll have a few more things to propose, but we know you guys got a 10 o'clock thing, and when that's done, we can talk
Yeah,
about
I
the
think the
other.
10:15 was the schedule, I think, which.
Okay, perfect.
Ten o'clock, gravel screen bid opening.
We got
How many-
one,
Just one?
just one from Goal. They did it, they've done it every year for the last probably 10 years.
From Garrett Gull, is that who it is? or-
Yeah. Bid price for screening 1,500 yards is $4.52 per cubic yard, for a total of $6,780.
How much a yard?
450.
452, which I didn't dig out last year's price, but that seems like it's cheaper. So I'd make a recommendation, we accept Gold's bid for
Okay.
$4.52 per cubic yard.
I'll make a motion that we approve Derek Gold's bid.
I'll second that. All in favor of accepting the bid for $4.52 cubic yard, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Met already regarding the Schedule A, and so I don't want to spend a ton of time actually talking about that, other than the fact that we've spoke, you guys have spoke, and we're going to try to make a commitment to get out in the field at some point and maybe cruise around and see if there's opportunities that we're missing to clean some things up. There's nothing I'm not satisfied with. It's just that we could maybe make things a little bit
Yeah,
more.
and me and Jared talked about that earlier, and I'll be honest with you, I just haven't had time to look at it right now.
No.
My to-do list is so long that
Yeah.
it's just not at the top. And
And-
I thought maybe we could let it ride this year,
Yeah.
get through the project agreement season, and
Yeah.
then next year commit to gonna take a week or two to
And-
really take a hard look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And we can do some work on our end too, of kind of maybe having it like, maybe some red lines like, okay, we should go look at this.
Mhm.
And then that doesn't take as much time, just, you know.
And it'd be easy on my side, as far as just cleaning it up, is just to go back to 2010 and look at that
Yeah.
one and say, all right,
Yeah.
well, this is what we had. This is the
Right.
original.
But I did want to let you know, I did add Coker Lane to
Uh-huh.
it because that's a county road that we may have a need to work on at some point, because we rely on that for access to the Olympian and stuff like that. And we've added the Olympian to the agreement a couple years ago, strictly on the Forest Service side.
You know what we should do there? Speaking of that road, since it ties into the Olympian, where that washed out, where that railroad grade
Mhm.
washed out, they're coming off that and approaching. What would be the possibility to building a nice approach there? Because all them ATVs are coming off the trail, coming through the ditch,
Mhm.
and then spinning up on our road.
Yeah, I think it's a real good possibility, and just having it on there just gives us those flexibilities.
okay.
If we can come up with the money and give it to you guys to do it, that
Sure.
would maybe help facilitate that actually happen. So while I was doing that, we added the Deer Creek side just to the Olympian, and then that kind of connects that whole transportation system through there. And then one that is, I had on my radar for years is that 12 Mile Road isn't on there at all, and it's, it's a Forest Service road, so I strictly put it on the Forest Service side, but just that first little bit up to the houses up there. So we did a little cleanup, but nothing that wasn't just blatantly obvious, and it will give us flexibility if we need to work on each other's roads at any point in time. So if we can make an effort to maybe sit down and look at some maps and have things highlighted and thought through a little bit, that'll save some time for Jason, and we'll make a run through and drive around and look at some things. And it's been really good, I think as long as
So
the big thing is that the schedule itself, it just strictly says which roads are Forest Service, which roads are county,
and we obviously need to add Thompson Peak and
yeah.
those. Okay.
Yep, so, that'll get to the specific, so Dry Creek, Jared already talked about that. That will be a proposal that we want to have an agreement in place. Obviously, that section of road, you guys do most of the maintenance on that right now, and that's kind of been a thorn mainly in your guys' side, and we want to contribute that, especially if with some of this funding that came in through the emergency relief, we can push that your way. And then we can do it similarly. If the plan that you guys come up with to fix it is something you want to take on with your crew, you certainly can. But if you want to contract it, you can do that too.
Well, and I guess on that one, it'd be easy to go in and spruce it up and make it look good and widen it in a spot or two. My problem is, and maybe it's deeper than me, maybe it's trying to figure out how to capture all that water there, because that hillside's so wet. I don't know if there's a way to do it. I mean, I know
Yeah.
they do French drainage, all kinds of, but there's probably 15, 20 culverts in that hillside. Some are buried, some are exposed, and there's just a lot of water there comes
Yeah.
off that field, and the whole area is saturated. And
Yeah.
even even in the winter, you know, if you get off on the edge, you sink in the mud, and it's constantly running water.
Well, I think it's worth thinking through a little bit because it's obvious that people have put pipe after pipe after pipe.
Right, and that's
for
what
years.
that's why I'm saying it'd be easy to fix up the top,
Yeah.
but it's still gonna sink every year until we figure out
Yeah.
if there's a way we can somehow shore it up better. And like I said, that's why I was kind of maybe relying on you guys'
Yeah,
expertise on
and
something
if
like that.
it's above you, don't hesitate to, we'll possibly pull in one of our consultants. Or I don't know, do you guys have any consultants you like to use?
It doesn't matter to me.
Do you guys have any rules on if we do ask to have somebody more technical than any of us come out, if we gave the money to you guys, do you guys hire consultants
We
ever?
do, yeah. We have a couple different ones, you know, either Territorial or Great West Engineering. Any of
Okay.
those guys.
Yeah,
are good about
yeah,
that.
we're probably most comfortable with GreatEst, DJ&A, those two are on our.
Great West is one we've used quite a few times.
Okay, so if you don't feel comfortable after you look at it, you want a second level or whatever, because we don't wanna throw money at it, not.
Right, and then it's interesting talking to like Kelly and Roger Brockway about all the major projects they've done through that area, trying to fix it. And here we are, it's the same. We do all this money, all this work, and it looks good, but then it
For a
doesn't.
little bit.
Yeah.
It just keeps.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe there is no. Maybe it's just something we're gonna have to work at for the rest of the time. I don't know.
Well, let's hope we can do it. So, I don't know if it's like our highest priority, but as long as we have, and I don't know if you need to vote on it or whatever, but some approval to push an agreement into place so that if the money that I think is coming gets here, we can just execute the agreement and then work out a contract similar to these other ones to make the fix. So anyways, that's what we're proposing, and you guys have the ability to expedite. Jared just made the comment, your contracting process is much easier than ours to deal with this, and so yeah, it literally, beyond this point in time in our year, if the money does come, we probably wouldn't be able to get it through our system. So
Right.
the agreement would be the best.
Well, that's the whole thing we've been working on for all these years, working with you guys. It does expedite the process so much that
And
a lot more work done.
yeah, and we have no tool to at all target locals. I mean, that's just
Right.
not in the federal acquisitions
Yeah.
process.
And that's what's
unfortunately.
good about it, is it does give the local contractors.
Yeah. So
Priorities.
that's one. I think we're all on the same page there. Jared mentioned Thompson Peak, and again, we saw that failure last year. We thought that we could manhandle that thing, and clearly we were a little bit wrong. But I don't know, Jared, if you want to talk, I guess you pretty much already mentioned what the project is, but.
Yeah, well, we thought it was surface water that was causing it, but it's internal water that's causing it, drainage.
The whole hillside's rotating, so the only thing to do is get it above and reroute it, but.
Was there like a little spring in there somewhere? What do you-
No, there's like a rock face back there that you can't see, and there's like a clay layer that's
Yeah.
kind of tucked in there, and it's deep.
Yeah, it's just all clay and it just keeps,
It being too steep, it's just not stable, nothing's growing on it, it's internal, it's not, nothing surface. Because we put a nice drain up above it, thinking we'd catch all of it and put it in the vegetation, and yeah, it didn't touch it.
Yeah, and so last year when some of that was going on, and I probably knew this, but I didn't fully acknowledge it with all the comm towers and everything up there. You know, I've just always used the Thompson Peak lookout, our lookout, but there's a lot going on up there. And it made me
Yeah.
nervous when that access was compromised last year. And that's when I approached Jason at one of these agreements, because of you guys had communications there. I mean, we don't need a lot of rationale to use our Schedule A agreement, but we do have to have it on the schedule in order to do a specific project agreement. So this is kind of two-part. We added the road to the agreement on the Forest Service side. This is by no means becoming a county road, or we're asking you to do maintenance in the future, but this gives us the ability to do the project agreement, and then we'll reevaluate in the future. But I think overall, it's a good candidate to probably maybe have on there because of that access that we need to the comm towers, plus the gravel pit. You guys have, I think, a special use permit to use that permit, or that pit, so really is a good candidate to keep on there for this, so.
So you want some kind of commitment from us in the form of a motion so that when your money comes in, it's ready to
Yeah.
move forward?
Yes, exactly.
So how shall this be phrased? Is it a length of road?
Well, you could just, they could accept the Schedule A with the pending projects, right?
Right.
Mhm, okay.
And then there was one more, and again, this is jointly beneficial between Bear and some of the post-fire money. We identified Verde Creek as something that's already on our schedule, but we might be able to push a little money to your department, and if you want to either recompensate yourself for stuff you have done, or, you know, the future maintenance that probably will, you can do work, send us a bill, and recover costs for doing that, some of that.
That'd be good.
And Mike Frawley went out there the other day and identified some things that he thought could be just some catch basin, some drainage work, and so.
Yeah.
Again, if it's something you want to fit into your program, or if it's extensive enough to where you get a contractor to do some of it, then however, but this would just put that in place, so. Am I saying that right? 3 agreements that we're proposing to put into a place that aren't currently in place: Dry Creek, Verde Creek, and Thompson Peak Road.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that a little bit, so I just need to, like I said, maybe I'll give you a call in where are we at, May? Maybe in the beginning of June or something, we can talk again, just to kind of tighten things up, so I know kind of a budget number to put in for my contracted services line item.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
make sure we have the money, the funds available.
And if you prefer, like, until I actually have that agreement in place, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just getting on the schedule and coming for 15 minutes and saying, here it is. Are you guys okay with signing this? I'm totally cool with that. So if it's more appropriate to not get this blanket on all 3 of these projects, to actually have the piece of paper in your hand, so that's fine. Yeah.
I would say you could
Yeah.
approve the Schedule A with the pending projects.
Yeah.
That would cover everything, and then,
We
like
don't
I
want you to
said,
drive all the way out here for.
Well, it's not so much that I like to come out. It's more of just sometimes.
I mean, if it was something that sat wrong when it came out, I mean, these guys would always disapprove it at that point too, you know,
Sure.
the project, so.
Well, yeah, 'cause-
But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, you will have the opportunity to sign, so it won't be official till you do sign it. So if you see the official one and you don't want to sign, then they should be pretty legit. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve and sign the Schedule A road maintenance agreement with pending projects.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Okay. So this has 2 places to sign. It's the actual Schedule A, the list of roads, and then the second place to sign is the maintenance plan, and that just displays. Yeah, do you want to get 2 original signed?
We should have, I don't know where the other one
So I guess we're gonna make you sign 4 times. This is the schedule and then the maintenance plan. It's on the back, and
Okay.
then we'll get 2 originals so that both parties have an original. And one thing that Jason and I talked about, I'm aggressively pursuing the option of finding some money for graveling the first 3 miles of Cedar Creek.
Oh, you're an angel.
Well, it's one thing I'm really concerned about is we're gonna get some heavy log haul here with the Cedar Tom. None of those guys have really operated yet, and that's probably 20 million feet up there with Barber, Cedar South, still more to come out of Lost. And so I'm just worried about it. It's not holding up very good just with light traffic, let alone you start.
Well, it was the worst this year, and I haven't seen it in a long time. You know, in the fall, we just got so much rain and
Yeah.
so much hunting traffic.
Yeah.
My Lord.
And the project that we did, I stand behind that. It was a great project. I just think
yeah.
that what happened was the aggregate that's on it was never really durable to begin with, and once we started really rolling it, I think it floated more fines than usual to the top and stuff like that, so I think the only fix at this point is a new cap of gravel and the pit right there. The only thing that I guess I just put on your radar early is if we do, I guess on a road like that, is there any ability to maybe have a little bit more of a joint project? If like, say, for example, I could come up with the crushing cost, the hauling cost, and the crew could be there to like spread the gravel or something.
Oh, yeah, we can do something.
So just knowing that I might be able to do it under a tight budget, kind of the piecemeal project might help, I guess, elevate the project a little bit like that, but not put that much.
Well, anything we could do, to help with that road would be good, because it'll save us in the long run. I think we put 15 loads of gravel on it right before freeze up, just to smooth out some of them bad spots, and then it froze up, which was good. And then banging through that thing all coming along, it's just hard on stuff. I'd like to, whatever we can do, we can help.
Okay. Well, that might be something we look at, Jared. It'd be a basic contract. I mean, just a crush and place type of thing. But I guess you kind of see some of their contracting process. We don't have to be quite as strict with how we can just plainly tell them county crew will be whatever's spreading, whereas and our contract is to crush, haul, and deliver to the road. So. Yeah, I think that'd be a cool way to maybe get to that if I can find that avenue. I just don't want it. It won't look good if we start hauling a lot of trucks and it's this terrible road for the next 5 years.
There's some spots in that road, there's berms on both sides, and there's just nowhere, that water just has nowhere to go. And
See, the first 3 miles after the pavement. Yeah, and it's great during the summer when everything's dry after we put that calcium on. I mean, it's just shined up, but that water hits it, and then I think at that point the mag compounds it,
Yeah.
Right.
because it wants the
It
moisture.
holds the moisture.
So then it's like a double-edged sword. Well, good. I'll get with you when I have a little bit better picture of these budget numbers, and then you can do the planning that you need to, and then these things will come in form of official project agreements, and you guys can discuss them one more time before you sign, and
Okay.
I don't think there'll be any surprises, though.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, did you get those copies? Oh, she's making.
I had her make a couple copies, and I'll give you there. One of the originals.
Yeah, and we still have our Forest Soup signature on, so we'll get you an official and scan, and you guys will have everything you need. Cool. So I'll take this in to the Forest Soup.
Yeah, and she's coming with you.
Oh, okay.
Decent turnout.
I had a meeting in Alberton with the fire protection plan. Gee, I thought I turned that down. But I haven't watched your video yet. Can you tell what was your take? Did it get hot and bothered, or no?
There's a lot of redundancy, a lot of the same things over and over, Everybody pretty much sang the same song.
Yeah, the letter in the paper was kind of vague. What is the gist of the rift or the rub?
With the EMTs.
Or with everybody wanting to run, what's going on? Yeah.
I'm still not quite sure. In fact, there was a certain amount of confusion in the room. Just the structure of the board, 5 elected, 4 appointed corporate board members. Nobody could really explain that, other than it goes back to when Missoula Community controlled the hospital.
Uh-huh.
And so there was a little confusion about the structure of the board. And then the length of the terms was a little confusing because the posters pretty well stated who's running for which terms, either full or partial.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a sheet of paper that Colin Bishop had. Mr. Bishop was our moderator.
Mm.
Since he's a social studies and government
Mhm.
civics type guy. Little sheet that he had some different numbers, there was some confusion on the length of the terms and things like that, so. I haven't read the ballot yet, it just came in the mail yesterday, so.
Yeah, I haven't even opened mine yet, so.
Yeah. Hopefully, it'll be a real explanatory for people about the length of the terms and whatnot. 'Cause there were 5 EMTs originally challenging, one from St. Regis dropped out for personal reasons.
Oh,
So it's 4 incumbents, 4 challengers. Not everybody could be there, so there were some stand-ins that read some prepared comments from the people who couldn't be there. So it was pretty well done, I'd say. Lasted 2 hours, which is what they kind of projected. No, there was just a minor rub between one person on the board and one challenger about some unstated issue that we still don't know what that was.
I'll have to watch it, so.
And anything else on the public comment radar?
Did Ranger Carol have any good news, any updates that were good? Things coming along? The system
Just
is
the
kinda-
sunrise
the system is
fire
fine.
thing?
Yeah, the EA's out on the Sunrise Fire and it's out for public comment. And, you know, gonna try to get some road projects done.
Right. Was there any talk about flood preparedness
Not from the Forest Service.
from road people or anybody?
Well, just, you know, they're gonna watch for any potential.
Right.
You know, they hoped that last fall that they, you know, went into the area and
Clean culverts out
clean
where.
culverts
Try to mitigate
and
yeah.
replaced some culverts and,
Good, because the burn area was one
Yep.
problem area. At the Conservation District meeting Tuesday night, Lad Notek and John Bowe, or Bowie,
Mhm.
whatever his name is, were kind of chatting at the end of the thing about the snowpack being 160, 170%. Late in the year as we're getting, eventually something's got to come off the mountains, you know. And so they're thinking it could equal the flow we had in '97, which is the last one that did much damage. 11, we had a big runoff year. 14, we had a big runoff year. But this will be bigger than those. It'll be higher and longer because of the way things are going. Hopefully it'll drag out a while and not all come too quickly, but they have mentioned that they're anticipating people calling for 310 permits or advice if their riverbanks are eroding or their driveways, private roads, culverts. They're thinking there could be a scramble for permitting for emergency measures or whatever they do in those cases. And I'm sure the Forest Service will be trying to watch their roads. They're terribly short-handed, but maybe they can pick up Joe Hughes or something. Have an extra pair of eyes out there to keep us, check out some of these culverts that are historically problematic. Let's see, have you talked to Jason or Tim the last couple of days?
Talked to him today and T-Bone today.
Okay. We had quite a whirlwind on Wednesday, I think it was. I met Steve Felix from MDT and Wayne Dykstra, the local supervisor.
And we met him on Monday in Missoula.
Okay, I met him at the park Wednesday, I think. Tuesday? I forget which day it was. Met them for just a quick ad hoc review of the shoulder problem with the right of way. And Steve Felix insisted that it's not a state road, there's nothing they can do to help, it's all up to the county. Okay, and then I get to the scheduled meeting for the park pond. We had a gathering of the minds there for the park pond. And that was good information, planning, kind of get the ducks lined up, do some advertising for equipment, whatever we're gonna do. And Jason was there for that, so that was a good meeting of the minds. And I found out there that Jason and Tim and
Jane Eby?
Jay and Evie had discovered, they dug a little deeper and discovered, yes, it is a state road.
From the Yellowstone Trail days.
Yellowstone Trail, US 10 on, yeah.
Mhm.
So then, that was another turnaround, and so George Bailey and John Cheeseman and I met at that same problem area, like the next day, called Blur, and hashed it out about some options, some future options for better access just past Shober.
To the park.
Not knowing how long it's gonna take to cure the Shober problem, or who will do it. George Bailey thought we could do a hurry up. We've changed the entrance road, moved the entrance road all in a big hurry before the flea market. I said, no, it's on national forest land, it's a ground disturbing activity.
Yeah, EA
It's
requirement.
gonna take Small Depot to look at it. All the ologists are gonna have to bless it.
All the ologists.
All the other ologists. It's not gonna happen in 5 weeks. So I said, the situation is no worse there than it has been in previous years on that bad corner. We're just gonna have to manage it and get more people on the ground to help direct traffic, get better signage, traffic flow. We got more shuttles this year. We're just gonna have to manage it better to keep things flowing. So it'll be a big challenge, but I was gonna visit with Jason again about, can they help us with any temporary signage, traffic cones, things like that. The state has helped us with portable signs and traffic cones, but the mood they're in now, I don't know if they're gonna let us use that stuff. I haven't asked. I'll get a hold of, I'll start with Kevin out here and see if we can do what we've done in the past. We need more permanent no parking signs along Camel's Hump Road there, because there's really no shoulder, and if people park on the shoulders, they block part of the driving lane. And so that's part of the problem. And we're gonna handle the vendors differently. The vendors have all been warned that they won't be able to get in the park until Friday morning. And they won't be able to line up at the entrance to the park either. And they have to keep the highway clear. So we will be there Thursday night and Friday morning and have things well posted, but the vendors need to loop in, the loop around the kiosk by the pond. They're gonna just fill that up bumper to bumper. And the Logie Trail loop, they're gonna have to fill that in bumper to bumper. And that's where we're gonna stage them until we open the park at 9. And then we'll send them through the opening in an orderly manner, keep them flowing and not block highway, the old highway. That's the plan. And we haven't talked to the sheriff's office yet about some backup from them. Well, that's about all I've got. I think with the high groundwater this year, the pond work is gonna be pretty late in the season. It might be August, September. Because that pond is spring-fed groundwater. And it's gonna be full, and there's gonna be a lot of water. There's been water in the sloughs at Logie Trail for 2 months. That's how much water is already in the ground.
Yeah, lots of Cedar Creek started running, I think, in November, and it usually doesn't start running till like now.
Well, Dry Creek ran the end of February into March and then quit. And it's gonna start up again pretty soon. I presume. What do you have, Ron?
I ain't got it done.
You're just here. Is there any progress on that statute topic?
No.
More.
Kind of on hold? Or-
They're still, I think, getting donations or. As far as I know.
They're gonna go tie themselves in the tree to save it.
Lock themselves to the tree.
They climb up there and knock themselves out.
No, I think that was early in the discussion about utilizing that corner, but
Mhm.
I think it's pretty much decided not to.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
You
we're
know-
not gonna do anything with the
Even
tree.
though your local forester and an outside arborist or somebody said it's in tough shape.
Well, I was also kind of concerned because that could be an intersection that needs to be improved in the future with traffic.
I think
Yeah.
it needs a turning lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That tree's gonna have to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it breaks up anymore, you're just gonna have to make a command decision. Sorry, public, this tree's gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's gonna like it.
That's the fun part of this job. You never ever please everybody.
No, I mean, I love trees as much or more than anybody, but I know when a tree's gotta go. For the bigger benefit. Bigger public benefit, right? Just watch that tree as it develops through the summer, you'll see it's stressed out. The leaves won't be as healthy as the other trees. It'll get, it's kind of a scorched look from the reflection off the pavement and the drought stress on the roots. Last summer it took 2 straight months without a drop of rain. And you can see it, it was stressed.
All right, well, if there's no more public comment, I think I'll go eat with Mr. Doug.